Okay, this next arc is a flashback. I'm not sure why the author decided to put it here. Well, the first chapter of the arc is called The Retriever's Second Anniversary, so I guess this might be the second year of the manga's publication, and to celebrate it, he made these short flashbacks. It's flashbacks I didn't know we needed, and I appreciate it. The first flashback starts because Paul is telling the girls the story of how Ron and Genji first started. Reminder, Rina from the Divine Design arc is working at the Honky Tonk now, so she doesn't know their lore. Paul talks about them carrying on the name of the Get Backers. They are the third generation to take on the name. I think we knew that there was a group before them, but we don't know who they are. When the boys get back from a job that Raina gave them, Paul reminisces about the first time they took on the name Get Backers. In the first page of the flashback, we get a glimpse of the second generation. It looks like this was where they passed down the name to Bon and Genji. This flashback is about the first job they ever took with the name. It starts with them already having money troubles, getting their car back from illegally parking it. Also, the lady talking to them says the car is registered to someone else. So I guess the car is like a legacy thing that gets passed down to each generation of Get Backer. That's a neat detail about the car. They are 16 at the time, and the main story is taking place 2 years later. So I guess they're both 18 in the current timeline. Bon calls Genji Lightning Lord Brat, just because he's a jerk. Genji seems to be the same person as he is in the future. Paul gives them advice to what it means to take on the name Get Backers. They want coffee, and Paul tells them to prove themselves, show that they're worth taking on the name, and he will give them coffee. The client they're waiting for comes in. They do the classic big bodyguard underestimates them and gets almost beaten up. The client wants them to break out a prisoner. She says the man belongs to her, and she wants him back by Friday the 13th. Genji wants more information before they take on the job, and she threatens to leave, but Bon tells her they'll take the job. I sympathize with Genji's concerns about breaking someone out of prison. That seems like a sketchy job. Seems like Bon really likes what the previous Get Backer said about what it means to be a Get Backer. The city is like a toy box dumped on a pile of trash. Your job is to find the pieces in the trash that look like they will fit together. Whatever you start, you see it through to the very end. You never know what the picture will look like until you find the final piece. That's the job of a retriever. Don't forget that. Bon wants to see this job through the end to see the full picture. It cuts to them attacking a random guy. They shock him to knock him out and tie him to a railroad track to make him talk. Turns out he was following them because the lady that hired them told him to. Bon asks who the lady is and why does she want to break out the guy in prison. She runs the Shanghai Mafia in underground Shinjuku, and she's called the Fox. The guy they have to retrieve knows the location of drugs worth 1 billion. It has a dollar sign, but I assume it's yen, still a crazy amount of money. There's a train coming, and Bon decides to leave the guy on the tracks. Genji starts freaking out and trying to save the guy. Of course, it's the jog-on. Bon being kind of a jerk, using it on Genji. Genji wants to give up on the job. He doesn't want to help a drug dealer sell more drugs. Bon says the puzzle piece quote again, and they have to finish what they started. Yeah. They make it to the prison. They can't get in unless they have an appointment. A girl gets dropped off to visit her dad in prison. Bon gets the idea to lie to the girl so they can join her to get inside. It works, and they get inside. Now, the interesting part of the flashback happens. It cuts to a delivery truck, and the workers inside are dead. The culprit is Fudo, the guy that can see into the future a couple seconds. He also already has his hand ripped off by Bon, so even before this flashback, apparently Bon took it from him. He also has the job of getting the guy out of prison. He's more excited about getting the chance to kill the Get Backers, not knowing that Bon and Genji are the new ones. He's talking to the person who hired him. Fudo is referred to as a plunderer, whatever that means. He makes the point that he technically doesn't need to bring the guy back alive. He just needs the information he has, and goes into detail on how he would torture him to get the information. Fudo is still a crazy person. He has 2 other people with him on this job. More on them later. Back to the boys. Before they sneak away, Genji tells the girl that they lied to her to get into the prison. It's just Genji being a nice guy. We get a cool spread of pages of them parkouring through the prison to find the guy. They eventually find him while hiding up in the attic. At least I think it's an attic. The area is above him, and it's pretty big, so I'm not sure. Genji is still skeptical about doing this job when they suddenly get attacked. A boomerang comes flying at them, but Bon deflects it. It's the 2 brothers working with Fudo. I guess they use a boomerang as a weapon. They go for another throw, and one of the brothers gets their ear cut off. Fudo, being the maniac that he is, was serious when he said to leave the Get Backers to him. The other brother yells at him, and Fudo just cuts his tongue out. It is funny that the brothers were so trash that they just get beaten by Fudo for no reason. The whole point of them being here was to just get humiliated by Fudo, I guess. Fudo does his hate boner speech to Bon, saying his arm aches for revenge and he's excited to get his revenge and blah blah blah. Fudo just really wants to kill Bon. It is confirmed that Bon was a plunderer with Fudo in the past. Bon tells Genji he took his arm, so Genji assumes that means he's weak, and Bon gives Fudo a lot of credit. He says he's strong and can beat Genji in 2 seconds unless he went Lightning Lord. Fudo attacks them both, and they dodge the attack. Genji gets arrogant and tries to fight Fudo. saying if Bon can beat him, so can he. Fudo tanks Genji's attack and knocks him back. Despite that, Genji still thinks he can take on Fudo. He goes in for another attack, and this time Fudo uses 1 second to see into the future to dodge and cut Genji. Bon tells Genji how his power works. He has an ability called Insight that lets him look 1 or 2 seconds in the future. That doesn't deter Genji, so he goes in for another attack, electrifying a pipe using max power to destroy Fudo's knife hand. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, and Fudo cuts Genji's arm. His blade is made of a special ceramic that doesn't conduct electricity. He goes to kill Genji, but Bon saves him in a pretty dope panel. Bon comes up with the plan to use Fudo's power against him. Bon goes in for an attack to try and get Fudo in his Jagan. Fudo of course knows about it, so he doesn't look in Bon's eyes. They clash. Even though Fudo can see into the future, Bon's speed is too fast that he's basically equal to Fudo despite his 1 to 2 second future sight. Fudo sees 1 second in the future and sees Bon's arm getting cut off. That's when Genji comes and does a flashbang to blind Fudo. It doesn't work. Genji gets stabbed. Fudo saw through their plan. Then Bon gets his leg cut off. Fudo, being a freak, just starts cutting Bon's body parts off, just torturing him until he dies. Fudo doesn't even remember the job he was doing. He was so caught up in torturing Bon. Obviously, at some point he got hit by the Jagan. When the minute is up, he's holding one of the brothers. He's so mad that he just slams the brother on the ground and stabs him. I assume he's dead. Fudo is just a monster. The question is, when did he get hit by the Jagan? It's actually a really cool idea. They use Fudo's power against him by taking advantage of the blank second. It involves forcing Fudo to close his eyes. As long as he can see the person, he can predict the future. When he closes his eyes, he can no longer see the future. In that moment, he can change what he thought he was going to see, hence the blank second. The moment he preemptively closed his eyes to predict Genji's flashbang, Bon moved in front of Genji to hit Fudo with the Jagan when he opened his eyes again. This was a really cool idea. Bon tells Genji the line we should know by now. The S in Get Backers means neither of them is alone. He couldn't have beaten Fudo easily without Genji's help. They escape and talk to the old guy. They explain the situation to him, and he tells them he can't go with them. When he hears the Friday the 13th part, which happens to be the same day they're breaking him out on, he tells them he won't go and tell Yuko he won't leave. Bon wants to take him by force, but Genji asks him what his backstory is with her. He tells them on the condition that they leave him alone. 30 years ago, him and the client were gangsters. One day, they stole a bunch of heroin from an international drug ring. They don't explain how they did it, they just did it somehow. The old guy's name is Ryuji, and the client's name is Yuko. Ryuji tells Yuko to lay low for a while. The mafia guy from before, I believe the Arms of the Goddess arc, Liu Mengyan, is looking for them and the stash. He found a buyer, so she just needs to wait until the deal's done. Then they will get married and live happily ever after. They agree to meet at this carousel on Friday the 13th, which is supposed to be next week at that time. But obviously something happened that stopped that dream from happening. Carrying the drugs around was too risky, so Ryuji buried them. He had a friend he trusted to help him hide out for a while. On his way there, he gets stopped by some policemen. They turn out to be fake police. His friend ratted him out, and of course, Liu Mengyan is the guy. They see he doesn't have the drugs on him, and at that moment, Ryuji takes the gun from the cop, shoots his friend in the head, and jumps off the cliff. He wakes up in a hospital. The girl that found him had been taking care of him in the hospital. Then they moved away and started a life together. He had lost his memory. He started a whole family with this person. Then one day, their daughter finds a locket. The locket has a picture of him and Yuko, which makes him remember everything. It just so happens to be Friday the 13th, and he makes his way to the carousel. He sees Yuko there waiting for him and decides not to approach her. He then turned himself into the police to atone for his sins so he can move forward with his life. He chose his family over Yuko, and this is his way to absolve himself. Ryuji has to leave, and Genji makes the fair point. He should break out with them to finally see Yuko and give her the closure she needs so everyone can move on. Ryuji refuses and says, "You call yourselves retrievers, correct? To me, you don't retrieve the past. You make up for its mistakes." Bon doesn't care about the tragic past and tells him they're not leaving with nothing. It cuts to the carousel. It's about to close down for good, and the workers let her have a few more minutes. Just when she's about to give up, the carousel lights up. The boys tell her the thing she asked for will be here soon. They give her the locket Ryuji had, and she's displeased that they didn't retrieve him. She tells them she went to the carousel every Friday the 13th because she assumed she got the date wrong. When she found out the carousel was closing, she found out Ryuji was in prison. She knew about his new family and still wanted him back. Genji says even if she got him back, it wouldn't be the same. You can't turn back time, but she already knew that. She just wanted to still believe and hope that it could happen. Now, Bon says he can give her what she wished for and hits her with the Jagan. He tells her she has a full minute to enjoy herself. She gets the dream she was promised with Ryuji on the carousel as the prince on a white horse. It's a nice scene. Bon tells Genji he heard that the drug queen doesn't have long to live. She probably just wanted to last goodbye to Ryuji. It is a super sad and tragic story. Of course, the girl from earlier was Ryuji's daughter. That was obvious, but in case you didn't pick that up, there you go. Genji tells Bon he's a kind person, and it's the first time he calls him Bon-chan, which is Bon. It's a funny moment. They go back to the honky tonk, where Paul gives them a job well done with coffee on the house. That's the end of the first flashback. It was really good. We got to see their first job. Their dynamics were interesting, Bon being more of a jerk, and Genji being mostly the same. The story itself was super sad. Fudo was still a freak, probably killed both the brothers for no reason. The fight they had was really cool. It was a solid flashback, and I just noticed a plot hole. They left Fudo alive, and his job was to bring Ryuji back alive, but he did say he could just torture and maybe kill him for the information. So either Ryuji died, or I choose to believe he just gave him the information to Fudo, and Fudo let him live. The other flashback arc is wild. I can't really prepare you for how weird it is. It's good, but weird. It starts with them sitting in the car, counting money. We get the first introduction to Heaven, and it's as horny as you can imagine. She tries to scam the boys to give her money. She calls the cops on them, and they run away to the honky tonk. Heaven shows up again to give them a job. In her defense, she didn't know they were the new get-backers. Heaven acts pretty much the same as the current timeline. The client shows up and tells them what the job is. It's to retrieve a dog. Genji asks good questions, like why hire them to find a dog when you can just hang up posters. It would be easier and cheaper. He just says he doesn't want to get bit by the dog, which is suspicious. Bon also thinks it's a suspicious answer and agrees to do the job for an absurd amount of money. The client says he would have paid it, but he doesn't like the look of Bon's face. It's the face of someone who works under his own conditions, so he declines to hire them. Bon's instincts are always on point, so if he feels the job is bad, they don't take it. Bon even says he wouldn't have taken it basically for any amount of money. Heaven scolds them, but says they are just as bad as the previous get-backers, generation, which he likes. Paul approves of them not taking the job and gives them free coffee. Heaven takes the client to another pro, and on the way there, the client says he will get the next pro they hire to kill Bon and Genji, since they know about the dog now. He calls the dog a treasure, and it's worth dying to get. Just make sure not to get bitten. He hints that if they succeed, whatever they're trying to do, you will be reborn as a being beyond human. Don't know what that means yet. Also, the dog's cute. The moon symbol on his head is cool. A girl walks into the honky tonk. She asks the boys if they're the get-backers. Bon says they're not cheap, and she responds by saying her parents died, and she has a lot of money. But she says she's tough. She wants them to get back, you guessed it, the dog. They happily accept the job and ask her name. Maybe you also guessed it, it's Natsumi. This is a completely different job they did from the anime. If you remember, in the anime they had to get the cat mascot doll thing from episode 1. I think it was the thing her mom gave her before she died, and the cop had it because he thought she saw him doing illegal deals. Anyway, that's how Natsumi was introduced in the anime. In the manga, the first job was a lucky cat thing, but it was for a different client that wasn't in the anime. So this is the real introduction to Natsumi. She's just trying to get her dog back. They ask how she lost the dog, and Natsumi is still funny. The way she explains it is nonsensical. Then Genji asks if she knows where it might be. She points out the TV. How convenient. It cuts to them already undercover inside the TV station. The dog's name is Lucky. After he escaped from the bad guys that tried to take him, he was picked up by this TV station somehow. Natsumi tagged along with them because Lucky would think they're bad guys and bite them. They see Lucky in a cage. They can't break him out yet because he's about to go on the show. The show calls him Tiger, the genius dog. They show him complicated math questions and he gets the answers right. To break him out, Bon just uses the Jogon on the cameras. People start hallucinating Tiger is an actual tiger and freak out. They get Lucky back in the chaos. They run from the guards, and whenever Lucky barks, lucky things happen. Genji zaps the lights out, which causes glass to fall. Natsumi stops to get her pendant that fell off, and when Lucky barks, the glass that was falling didn't even hit Natsumi, it just lands around her. So something's up with the dog. We're seeing why the other people wanted him. They find a place to hide, and Bon wants Natsumi to tell him the truth about Lucky. One of the math questions he answered was Fermat's last theorem. It took 300 years to solve, and he was able to solve it instantly. So Bon wants to know the truth about the dog. I'm gonna say right now, you can't handle the truth that Natsumi is about to give us. Lucky is a mutt. His grandmother was a whore of a dog and slept with a random Shibikan dog. He is not a purebred dog. I thought this was hilarious. Natsumi is still the funniest person in the story. It continues to be funny. She says Bon never owned a dog, and of course they can understand language. Like when people tell dogs to sit. At this point, Bon just fed up with her. He just tells her to tell him everything from the beginning. Her mom died when she was young. Her and her dad found Lucky. Her dad is a scientist who specialized in viruses. He died in a work accident, so now it's just Natsumi and Lucky. A month later, the assistant came to Natsumi's home. He tells her to run as he turns into what I assume is a zombie. I told you this flashback gets wild. He attacks Natsumi. Lucky protects her, but gets bitten by the zombie. Natsumi and Lucky run out of the house, and the other client guy was outside the house. And at some point, Natsumi and Lucky got separated, and that's when we saw him on the TV. Genji asked why didn't she just go to the police. She said 3 guys told her she could go to the honky tonk and find the get-backers. Obviously meaning the previous get-backers sent her to them. Somehow, Bond makes the connection to Lucky with the missing link of human evolution. The missing link from monkey to man. Lucky kind of points to the pendant that Natsumi has. Before Bond can look at it, they get attacked by a bunch of zombies. He calls them the missing link of evolution. Outside is the client. He sent the zombies in after them. He infected the staff of the TV station as a 99.99% infection rate. It takes 5 minutes to transform a human. The body decays and rots in 12 hours, but during the day, that time, they followed the orders of the last voice they heard. He calls it the missing link virus. 1 year ago, a man, I assume Natsumi's father, discovered the secret to human evolution. It has a 0.01% chance to work. They haven't succeeded human testing, but Lucky is the 0.01% when he got bit by the guy that he sent to their house. He's telling Heaven all this, which means he plans to infect Heaven. She better hope she's a part of the 0.01%. Heaven's obviously not happy about that, but for now she just has to wait it out. Monchi tells Genji to leave with Natsumi. Genji's fighting style will most likely get him infected. Bond says he can deal with them without touching them. Bond just weaves through them. The best way to fight people mindlessly attacking is to let them destroy each other. Genji finally leaves with Natsumi, and now we see why Bond really wanted Genji to leave. That was because he has to kill them. They can't be saved now, and it's just better than letting more people get infected, which makes sense. Genji gets outside and immediately gets stabbed by Fudo. They hired Fudo to get the dog. I'm hyped and scared that Fudo is back again. He starts spouting his hate boner for Bond again, saying how he'll present Genji's corpse to him. Genji's determined to take him down, so he's not useless to Bond, and he gets stabbed again. It's raining outside, so Genji does what every lightning power user does, points at the sky and strikes himself with lightning. Natsumi goes to get Bond, and when she comes outside with him, we see a huge bolt of lightning Genji brought down. Genji gets the win, and I'm surprised Fudo survived that. The client shows himself. He offers to pay the 100 million yen for the dog, but of course they deny it. He does the villain explains his plan gimmick before he gets beaten. He wants the dog because he wants to evolve humans to the next step of evolution. He has everything in life. He has knowledge, fame, wealth, and he's basically just bored with life, and this is his only excitement, I guess. He threatens to infect Heaven with the virus. Bond warns him not to do it, or he'll regret it. He infects Heaven, oh god, ah! Or did he? He got Jogoned into injecting himself. His henchmen run away, and he panics. Bond doesn't confirm if he's actually infected himself or not. I assume he didn't actually do it, because Bond isn't that mean. They can't celebrate yet. Something is wrong with Lucky. He starts throwing things around with telekinesis. He basically turns into a god dog. Bond says it's the final evolution happening. Also, Natsumi was bitten by him, so she's infected. Natsumi begs them not to kill him, since he's all she has left. Bond asks Genji if he trusts him with his life, and of course Genji does. Bond jumps at Lucky and hits him with his last Jogon, and takes the pendant from him. I didn't mention this earlier because I didn't think I needed to, but when the client first came to the honky tonk to hire them, to show they are capable, Genji raised the temperature of his coffee so much that it burned his hand. All that to say, Genji has to do the same thing to Lucky to try and burn out the virus. He only has a minute to do it, and he has to do it slowly or he'll kill the dog. And back to Bond, of course the pendant had the cure inside it. Bond contemplates if Genji can't kill the virus, he'll have to take out Lucky, but Genji tells Bond to believe in him. Lucky starts going crazy in a nice looking panel. Everything falls to the ground and Lucky is cured. I would think that this virus would be too strong to just raise the heat to kill it, but oh well, I'm fine with it. Next we see them at the honky tonk. Natsumi is now working there, making them her first cup of coffee. Apparently curing Lucky also cured everyone that was infected with the virus, and it turns out Bond only knocked out all the zombie people in the TV station, so they got cured. Heaven brings them another client, and they happily accept her job. Paul says, "There's still many things in the city that needs retrieving, and one day your destiny is to climb that tower and retrieve the most precious of all things. That's something neither I or the second generation were able to do. You two just might be able to do it." That's interesting. I always knew the end of the story had to involve the top of the fortress, but it's cool to see the previous generation, and I assume Paul was a part of the first generation, couldn't do it. I wonder what they have to retrieve from the top of the fortress. That's the end of the 2 flashbacks, and like I said, this one gets wacky. but it's still a fun arc. Not much more to say about it. Flashbacks are oddly placed in the story, but I guess, like I said earlier, it's when this was made, it was the 2nd anniversary of the Get Backers, so I guess the author just made 2 short flashback arcs to show how they started. Anyway, we're almost done with this manga. I think there is 2 arcs left, and this next one is the one I've been waiting for. It's finally the Voodoo Child arc. We are finally going to get the answer of what the Voodoo Child thing is. All we know is that it involves Himiko, and it's most likely caused Bon to kill her brother, Yamato. I'm hyped, and I will see you next time.